Hi guys, and welcome to Petrolheads London. And if you've not watched this before, my name is Tom and this is my channel Petrolheads London, and this is my weekly video 5 at 5. Quite simply, 5 minutes at 5 p.m. every Wednesday, except for I will take the grief in the comments the last 2 weeks where I was in rural France and upload speeds were horrific and it took me like 6 hours to upload it. So apologies, I did get them out eventually and they were loaded in theory to be up at 5, but I'm afraid I missed it. So anyway, blame rural France broadband for that. And before you say it, I was in 2 different places, so I hadn't learned from the week before. So anyway, on to the stuff you're here to hear about. So it's all about car news, bike news and up and coming videos, and also some of your questions and just general chat about cars and bikes. So if you don't know, if you're the first person to comment, comments below. I want to start this conversation, really keen to hear what you guys have got to say. But first comment below always gets a shout out on next week's video. So this week it was Stephen Butler. So thank you very much for your comment. And I know you had a few comments around one of the controversial bits I put in my videos last week. And do you know what? I agree with you. I think if you're upfront as a YouTuber about your sponsorship, that's fine. For me, I think what it was is there was just a massive increase in social media traffic from people who don't always use it. And they weren't necessarily the people I used on the thumbnails. That was just an example, but there are people who are doing that. Anyway, moving on. That was last week's video. So one of the things I keep getting asked about is my exhaust on my motorbike. So if you're not interested about that, switch off about the next 10 seconds. But there is a more detailed video to come about that. It's just about finding time to edit some of these. I'm really keen to tell you a bit more about it, and also if there are further questions. So people have asked about cost and a bit about sound. I haven't done a dB test on it. I know a man who's got a dB measurer and who's also got a bike with a really loud exhaust on. So maybe I'll speak to him about doing something to test it out and see what it sounds like. The next thing to talk about is something I actually missed off last week's video, and it's a new car. And it kind of, well, got swept under the carpet a little bit at Goodwood, and that is the new McLaren 600LT. So in theory, this is kind of the swan song for the 600 series cars. So I think the new series is coming out, I think 2020 is the plan. Now this car, there's not been a lot of reviews around it that I can see, but it's a 488 beater. The interesting thing is it still doesn't beat a GT2 RS. But to me, they're totally different cars. Although the 911 GT2 RS is, in theory, a supercar, it just doesn't have that presence of it. But this new 600 LT looks like a hell of a machine. I mean, these cars are, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's about 3.9 seconds, 0 to 60, which is bonkers. I mean, this is motorbike acceleration speeds in a sports car. Yes, it's a supercar, I get that. That's why it is that fast. But anyway, to me, I've always been a fan of McLaren. I still think it lacks the sort of, I don't know, emotion that you get with a Italian sports car and that kind of theatre that gives you. But I do love them, and they are, I saw one actually that I put up on my Instagram post of I can't quite remember what model it was, but it just looked beautiful in the sunshine next to actually a GT3 RS. So the votes were quite interesting on my Instagram. So make sure you head over to my account there, where I often put stuff on that's happening there and then, as opposed to videos that will come a bit later. Right, so on to the next thing. F1 Germany. Wow, what a race. Well, Hamilton had an incredible win. I remember listening to him on the radio saying, I think, you know, dreams come true or something along those lines, because he came from a really far back position to take the win. Little bit of team orders helping him with his tussle with Bottas at the end. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal race with some interesting tyre choices, with a bit of rain happening during it. So anyway, that was really good fun. If you didn't watch it, make sure you go and check out the highlights. So just heading towards the end of this video, one thing I always ask you guys to do is comment below with questions so I can try and answer them. And I've been hinting a bit recently that I'm kind of getting a bit itchy feet with the F-Type. It's not sold yet and it's not even up for sale, but it's in my mind. But the question I got was actually, would I consider to replace the F-Type with a Classic? And I mentioned the BMW i8 M Sport version if that doesn't make it to production. Now, firstly, I can't afford a brand new BMW i8 as they are now, let alone an M Sport version. So that's probably not in the running for me, but I still think it's a super interesting car. As for a Classic, I've owned Classics before. My number plate actually that you see on my car actually came off an original 1978 S-Reg MG Midget that I owned when I was a lot younger. And that was just a labour of love. I rebuilt the engine on it. I did so much work on it. And if I'm honest, this car is my daily, and I need something that's just a bit more reliable. So right now, no, something mid-classic, an older Porsche, Vantage, something like that, I wouldn't rule it out. Anyway, I'm out of time. I've blown my 5 minutes, but thank you for watching Petrolheads London. Please remember, first to comment will get a shout out, and I'd love to hear your questions in the comments below. Take care. Cheers.